Welcome to the live talk discussion with the one and only 69dB Steph. Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Very good. Lovely to be here. It's an honor and a pleasure to be able to ask you these questions and hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for giving us the possibility to communicate. And I guess just a kind of important thing before we start. Everything I'm going to talk about today is my point of view. It's just my point of view. I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm not trying to force anyone. Some of the things I'm going to say today might be quite contentious, but my feeling is where we are today, especially with regards to the culture that's been going on for the last 45 years, is a moment where we really need to have a conversation. It's just a conversation. And I think everyone's got to be a part of this conversation. So this is how I would talk if I was in a conversation with you. And at the end of this, we will have a question response, so you can have your say as well. But it's really important to take it on that level, because otherwise it can sound a bit preachy, you know, sometimes when you give out your points of view. But I mean, I've had 40 years of experience as a improviser in illegal raves and mega commercial raves as well. So I've got 40 years of experience now being in tune with the music and our culture. And so this is just how things seem to appear to me at this time right now.
All right, well, let's start right at the beginning. You've mentioned to me that the Free Party movement has become more of a circle rather than a spiral. Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I'm not an expert in geometry and things like that, but take a think about the form of a spiral. A spiral is perpetually moving forward or backwards. It's going to the future or to the past, maybe up or maybe down, you know, but it's in movement. It's progressive or regressive, but it's definitely not going around in a circle. So if you look at the Free Party scene, what shape would you give the Free Party scene? My understanding of Free Party today is it's no longer a spiral, it's a circle. And the reason why I think that is because we're using the same techniques, the same understandings as we did in 1993 and 1992. Nothing's changed. The structure of Free Party has not moved 1 inch. And that, to me, for an organization or a phenomenon in society that is clandestine and illegal, is a completely ridiculous way to proceed. Because the police know exactly what you're doing. If you don't change, you're never going to do anything but get caught. And it seems to me with Italy now 6 years in prison for doing a Free Party. Well, they kind of caught you, didn't they? And the French are now going, oh, look, Italy. All the Italians are coming to France now. Oh, hey, maybe we should do 6 years in prison. And apparently the Swiss as well are now going, oh, well, if they're doing it, we'll do it, you know? So, you know, that's the trouble with being circular. You just go round and round in circles all the time. So my first point about Free Party is maybe we need to become spirals again.
Yeah, less of these vicious circles. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, don't do the circles down. They can be fun.
So looking back, what was truly revolutionary about Spiral Tribe, and what do you feel got lost as the scene grew?
Well, to start off with, I think the word revolutionary is the wrong word. I would say it was more like waking up. Remembering is the word. For me, the reason why Spiral Tribe was so important for me is because I remembered who I was. I mean, when you're born, I mean, like when my daughter was born, she was already my daughter. She had a personality. She wasn't like a blank page, right? But she was very trusting, lots of love, you know. And that love means naivety and all these kind of things, but beautiful. I wish we could all be like that. But the thing is, because we live in such a hostile environment, in a world that's basically run by psychopaths, we get disappointed as we grow. And the ego forms over time through collisions. You make mistakes, you hurt yourself, you have a good moment, you get an up. This forms you as a person. And the narrative is so powerful, you know. And it becomes who you are. The best example of that's nationality. You know, you're this, right? Oh, really? Am I? No, I'm a baby. I was this baby. I was just born, right? Oh, no. You're Scottish. You're Italian. You're French. Well, what is Italian? What is French? I mean, as far as I know, Italy's only been really Italy for the last 200 years or something. I mean, so suddenly you're that, right? But who does that benefit, right? It always benefits the same psychopaths, the same people, the same 1%, always them benefit from your nationality. Because then they can put you in the army and you can go and fight your brothers and sisters, you know, because you've got to defend your nationality and all that. So, you know, Spiral Tribe was a wake-up. You know, it was like, here we are in a party doing something, and the reason why it's not revolutionary is because trance exists all over the planet. You go to Chechen, you go to Indonesia, you go to South America, Africa, even in Italy, in the north, in the mountains, there's old forms of trance dance. It's always been. It's not new, it's not revolutionary. It's just what we always did, right? And so by the music of Chicago and Detroit bringing us to a different kind of music, because don't forget, before Rave, it was songs, you know, jam sessions with pauses, you know, and suddenly Detroit, Chicago get involved and there's no break. It's all weekend, all week. And we're on the dance floor just going, oh yeah, you know. So it was waking up. And one of the strange things is that when I went into the studio to record Forward the Revolution, in Youth studio, he had this sort of bunch of things you could sample. And I pulled out at random a CD. And it was the First Nation Americans talking about their culture and what the white man did to them. And also their chanting and their drumming. And I found this other sample, Wake Up. And you can hear it on Forward the Revolution, Wake Up. And that just came. I mean, it was one of the first tracks I ever wrote. And it was just there. And what's so funny is as time's gone by, the relevance of that has just deepened and deepened and deepened. Because we need to wake up, you know. More than ever, look at the world we're in today. The psychopaths are really getting violent. And the only thing you can do to protect yourself is to wake up and know what side of the fence you want to be on. So that's the kind of thing that was coming through the free party scene in the beginning in Spiral Tribe. It was seeing it for what it is, you know, understanding that you yourself can reconnect to the creative source. And I was privileged being a musician because that means improvisation. And so I got into this thing with Simon in particular, where we just go on stage not knowing what we're going to do and just trust. And next thing you know, as you're playing, it's a bit cold, it's a bit rubbish, and then suddenly the wave arrives, you know. And this is very important because, you see, it's nothing new. If you look at Indian ragas, they have an instrument called the tambura. And the tambura is just to fill the air. That's all it does. Because a musician in India will never play until the wave arrives, you know? They'll be sitting there waiting. It's not here yet, not here yet. And then suddenly, here it is, right? And that's what we discovered in Spiral Tribe in the way we make our improvised music, is that you'd be in a party and you'd, where's it going? And then suddenly, bang, wow. An hour just went by and you were just like, what happened? You know? The movements, everything was in flowing motion. And suddenly you realized, hey man, I'm not making music. I'm channeling music, right? And so that's the big wake up, and that's why Spiral Tribe, for me, was not a revolution, it was a remembering. It was a waking up.
All right, so going to the world today, two things, money and survival. So looking at the contraindications around money and survival, you've pointed out that money was always present at free parties, drugs, drinks, consumer culture. Yet artists and sound systems were expected to give everything for free. Why do you think the generosity towards artists never became normal?
Well, I think the first thing we have to understand is let's try and work out what money is, right? Because, I mean, the whole idea of doing a free party is intimately connected to the idea of money. And unless you're going to be French and say free as in libre, But let's just keep it on the money for the moment. Money doesn't grow on trees, right? Money does not grow on trees. In fact, the funny thing about paper money is you kill trees to make money, right? Which is very symbolic, isn't it? Because the trouble with money is it's a human construct. We created it out of our minds. It didn't come from Mother Nature. So it's something you have to be very careful with, really careful. Because if you're going to come into an ecosystem as diverse and powerful and beautiful as nature is, and you're going to start integrating something that's going to have an influence in that ecostructure that comes from your mind, not from nature, wow, you're going to have to be careful how you deal with that stuff. And being humans, we don't give a fuck, do we? And so, it becomes a power game, So, anyone who's ever done psychedelics, knows that you, number one, can't hide from yourself, right? You cannot hide from yourself. And one of the big issues when you're on psychedelics is money. Oh, my God. Whoa, oh, that's shit. Whoa, can't deal with money, And so there was a side of Spiral Tribe that was just like, whoa, no. Because we were all totally on the psychedelic thing, That was the thing we were surfing at that time. It was really the key to what we were all about. And so in our trips, the money thing was like, whoa, no thanks. But there was another reason that the money thing was pushed out of the way. It was because of the 1989 law that came in against raves and illegal raves. There was a choice at that time. Either you went into clubs and big parties and made money, but if you wanted to keep in the warehouses and if you wanted to keep in the countryside, you'd have to do it for free. Because it was the only way you were going to get out of like 20 grand fine and a year in prison or something like that. So it made sense that if we are going to liberate ourselves from the law, we would have to sacrifice the personal gain, right? But isn't that interesting how that ties in with today so deeply, right? Man, today, if you want to get out of the trap that's appearing all around us, man, you're going to need to take less and less and less. The less you want, the freer you will be. The less they can get you, right? And we've all got to work on that. It's got to be our practice. That's what we've got to work on today. Letting go, right? So that's what the whole kind of the ethic of the Spiral Tribe Free Party thing was in the beginning, was number one, if we're going to do these illegal break-in parties, it can't be for profit. And number two, the LSD was just going, nah, money's evil. Ugh, all that kind of shit, So that's what we built the foundation. But how wonderfully utopic LSD is. And the reality is we need money, eh? You can't get around it. So that was a bit naive, wasn't it? Right? Naive in a good sense, utopic in a good sense. Like my daughter when she was born, totally in a good way, but just, naive, right? And so when we planted the seed of the temporary autonomous zone that was Free Party, with everyone else who was doing it, because we were by no means the only people, right? It was a popcorn effect, everyone at the same time getting the same idea, right? But in that community, there was a need to survive, right? So money came in, right? And so that's kind of why the tree that has grown has got such a massive contradiction in it, where some people are guilt-tripped and shamed if they even talk about money. But everyone's doing business, right? No one talks about it. Oh, no, we're the Free Party scene, we don't do business. No, we're anti-money, right? And if you even talk about money with your friends, oh, he talks about money, off the vibe, right? which is understandable because we were like that as well. You know, we all took the acid, ooh, off the vibe, talking about money, woo, you know. So, right. But the problem is it's not realistic at all, right? And all of those sound systems and all of those people could never have survived if there wasn't that ecosystem going on. But the problem was because we guilt-tripped ourselves so badly, we had to keep someone free, right? Something had to be free, right? Because otherwise we're just like everyone else, right? So the musicians took the sacrifice, the DJs took the sacrifice, the sound systems took the sacrifice, the artists took the sacrifice, the technicians took the sacrifice, right? They could never make money, right? But everyone else could do business, right? That was fine, okay? And that was fine in the 1990s, right? Because we were all just growing up and working it out. But today, man, you can't carry on with that bullshit. Number one, because it makes it a one-way street. A one-way fucking street. Underground's a two-way street. If I give, you give back, right? Otherwise, what am I doing? I'm just feeding you, you know? And then you become dependent. And then you become like a spoiled kid. Oh, you're commercial now. You talked about money, right? Come on. It's pathetic. You can't carry on like that. It was a good experiment, right? We had to go through the experiment, and that was fine, right? But if you keep making the same mistakes forever and ever, you're a circle. So the thing is, like, today in France, and another thing is most of what I'm talking about today is from the perspective of France. I have no idea. In 1993, I left Britain, left the UK. I don't know what's going on here. So maybe what I'm saying is out of step with Britain. I don't know. But where I and Spiral Tribe built the technical scene in Italy and France and places like that, it was very much something that was fine and acceptable so long as we didn't have the mega pressure coming from the government. But when the police caught up and we lost Steve, Steve was a French raver who disappeared at a free party near Nantes and was found in the sea after having been controlled by the police, right? No one knows how he died, but it does look very dodgy from the police perspective. And then you had Redon, just not much time after that, where the CRS threw grenades into the free party and a guy lost his hand, right? And then us in Spiral Tribe had a meeting. We were like, what the hell can we do to respond to this, right? It's going wrong. We can't just leave it anymore. Someone's got to say something. But as I found out in free parties, if a normal person or any person individually stands up and goes against the status quo, they quite quickly get knocked down by the popular dogma, the popular ethos, right? And that means that big brothers need to show up because I'm harder to knock down. I can be knocked down, and I'm taking the risk to be knocked down, but someone's got to say something because it's ridiculous, right? We need to rethink. We need to learn the lessons and move forward as spirals again and stop being circles, right? And so what we did was we re-released Forward the Revolution. We gave 5,000 euros to the Fund Soutien Juridique de Sound to help, you know, the sound systems. And we kind of hoped that everyone else would start giving. Maybe some did, but it wasn't like that many. So today we're about to release a track called Give to the Sound System, which we'll speak about a bit later on. But this is the thing. Money is a part of this free scene, and we need to have a conversation, right? I am not going to try and push anyone in any direction whatsoever, but we should talk about it.
Which leads me beautifully on to how do you think artists nowadays can balance being independent and surviving, but without being accused of selling out?
Well, that's an interesting concept, isn't it? Selling out, hey. Let's have a think about the question of selling out. Because sell out is always projected onto artists, you know? We're the first, right? We're the worst, right? We always sell out, right? But in the context of free party, I don't know any musicians who made any money, right? point bar, right? I don't know any Beatles of the free party. Doesn't exist, right? There's no pop stars. No one made $1 million, right? So it's a little bit grossier. Is that a French word or English word? Grossier? It's French, isn't it? Okay. It's a bit exaggerated, right? To call any free party musician or DJ or artist or technician a sellout. Come on. Fuck you. You know, number one, okay? And whilst we're talking about the word sellout, if you come into a temporary autonomous zone that's supposed to be a free space where we experiment reality, and we try and look for different ways of behaving together, if you're doing business in that space, you're the fucking sellout, not us. It's not just artists who can sell out, we can all sell out. And it's so lovely to deflect it on us, you know? Anyone doing business in a free party is a sellout, and anyone buying anything is a sellout. I've got a word, it's underground consumers, right? So, I mean, I reject the idea that the artist sells out. And I think we need to have a clear understanding of what selling out actually is. Brian Eno the other day, he said a very interesting thing. He said, imagine social media and you take away the profit margin, right? What would social media be if it wasn't about profit? What would free party be if there was no profit?
So in your view, should free parties be a lifelong commitment for artists or a springboard into wider stages?
Oh, we have to look at the thing, springboard, right? That's got a little echo. It reminds me of the 20th century, right? We've got to understand, right, that in the 20th century, something incredible happened. It was called rock and roll, right? And the reason why rock and roll was probably more important than jazz on that level was because of the medium. Marshall McLuhan in the 1960s said the medium is the message. Now, to understand this, we have to accept that there's some kind of non-dual consciousness, right? We live in duality, right? Up, down, left, right, masculine, feminine, all that. But imagine that there's a non-dual us, right? I think there's a lot of weight in that argument because for there to be two polarities, something has to be split, right? And if you haven't got one, you can't split nothing, right? So there must be a one. But the nature of one would be no up, no down, no left, no right, right? By its very nature, it would be non-dual, right? So, okay, when you're improvising, we've already said there's a little moment when you improvise where the wave arrives, right? A very famous sax player from the 1960s called John Coltrane did a record called The Love Supreme, right? It reminds me of my daughter again, you know? That's the love supreme. When you're born, you're full of the love supreme, right? But as an improviser, and I don't know, I mean, I've got to be very careful. I don't know the Afro-American culture deeply. I'm not from America. I don't know the roots of it, so I'm just kind of doing my best to understand and interpret. But as a musician who improvises, I think I know what he means, right? Now, this love supreme that we channel when we make music is something that is intelligent, right? You know it if you know it, right? I can't give it to you because I can't be in anyone else's head. You can't be in my head. No, we're all like blocked off from each other. So you got to find it yourself. So that brings me to the question. The free party scene should be that. It should be a practice. It shouldn't be a distraction. It shouldn't be a plaything. It should be a practice. Music and dance, man, when we whitewash Afro-American culture and Jamaican culture, we dumb it down. The Europeans dumb it down. I mean, look at the way the Chicago Afro-Americans dance to house music, and look at the way we dance to house music, right? Do I need to say any more, right? It's a practice, right? It should be a practice because otherwise you're missing the point. That's why you need the drugs. And, you know, before we go down that road, drugs are not just drugs. There's different kinds of drugs, you know, and in the free party scene, we've seen waves of drugs, you know, and some drugs are very opening and they get you inspired and they make you understand the love supreme, and some just shut you down, right? And you know the ones who are dancing on the shutdown drugs, you know, that is as good as you can do, right? You know, man, you're selling yourself short. Music and dance is a practice. I started with the guitar and the drums, man, and when I first started at the age of 8 to play the drums, the drum teacher told me, right, left, right, left, you know, and you've got to do for the next 5 years, just that, right? Before you even get to be like yellow belt, you know? And that's what music and dance is, and it's supposed to be, right? It's not a plaything, it's a practice. And so, you know, if you're going to go out to a club and you want to, you know, just have a laugh, well, that's fine, no problem. Well, then pay for it, right? Pay for it, because you're paying for your night out, right? But if you're going to ask people to come and do things for free, it's got to be a practice. So that's the answer for what's going on in the free party at the moment. It needs to become a practice, right? Not just a plaything.
So if we're thinking beyond the artists and we're looking at the wider dance floor, what could it actually look like, the idea of this practice, for everyone at a free party to sort of share the responsibility of the culture? What could that actually...
Well, again, I've got to be careful here because I'm not from Jamaica. And, you know, I'm a big fan, of course, of reggae and reggae dub and sound system culture. Spiral Tribe wouldn't even exist without Jamaica, you know, so let's be clear, right? But I think when you lose your way, sometimes you've got to go back, follow the breadcrumbs, and try and get back to some place you can re-find something that's real. And where better to go than Jamaica, if you want to answer that question? Sound clash, right? Sound clash, if it's egoistic and competitive, is not sound clash. Sound clash for me is done with love. Sound clash is pushing the bar high, right? Pushing each other to go higher, elevate our culture, elevate us through practice. That's how we do it on the dance floor. That's how we do it in the free party scene. Sound clash each other, right? Have a healthy, nice sound clash on the dance floor, on the sound systems, the MCs, everyone sound clash each other. And the ones who've got it this week, on you go. You get the night, right? And the ones who get it next week, they get the night, right? And it's not, and if you lose, do it with love. Except you've got to do more practice. See? It's not a competition. It's not an ego thing. It's an elevation thing. And if we want free party to elevate, we need to start practicing.
I totally agree. In previous things, you've mentioned the idea of a union of ravers, like I guess how we'd have a housing union or, you know, work union, teachers union. So a union of ravers as a way to defend the scene against repressions and the negative sides. How might that work?
Well, it's going to be complicated, that's for sure. I mean, this is one of my reaching out things at the moment. It's an idea that we need to discuss. And looking at the current state of the left wing in Britain, it's not going to be easy, right? But one of the places where we need to start if we want to progress towards this, I think unionization is obviously a good idea, because when you come together as a big group of people, you have a better chance of defending yourself than you do if you're alone. There are two things that the psychopaths use to shut down freedom. First thing is the law, right? And the law is a costly process. If you haven't got money, right, you don't get a good lawyer, okay? And that's the game. They love that, don't they? You know, it's all, see how money is completely integrated into their freedom, right? And the other one's violence. They'll come down with the CRS and just beat you, you know, throw grenades at you, you know. So they're the two things we need to be concerned with as a movement if we're going to do things in a clandestine way or in a people way, right? And one of the advantages of being a union is that if you're one person and you have €1 million, right, you're pretty powerful. But if you're 100,000 people and everyone's got €10, you've got the same money, right? But you're 100,000 people. Now, small donations by a big group of people can get a lot of lawyers. And they can talk the language that we can't talk. Because that's how they mess with us, right? You notice if you go to a court case, you need to be represented because you can't talk. If you talk, you're screwed, right? Well, it's the same in life, right? So unionization of a scene that's being attacked by the system seems like a pretty good idea, right? But I don't know, it's just an idea, and it's something people need to talk about and think about.
I think it's a great idea. So looking a bit further into the governments and the politics and the stigmas and that side of things. So governments and authorities have stigmatized rave itself, presenting it as dangerous and criminal and derogatory. Do you think these stigmas can actually be changed? If so, how? And do you think it would ever get to the point where we can work with local authorities and governments?
Well, we could if they stopped being cheeky bastards. Why do I say that? Well, think about it. We talked about this crazy thing that happened in the 60s where rock and roll came along, right? And rock and roll, because of the mediums of communication at that time, needed to communicate through vinyl and the radio. It was the only two ways that a sound could become worldwide, right? So that meant we needed pop stars, right? It needed to be big. It needed to be like Bob Marley style, big, for that channeling process to communicate, So the music needed that, and it was relevant, and that's what happened. And one of the kick sides of that, remember the Beatles got the MBE, right? The Beatles got the MBE because they had made so much business opportunity for England because of their, charm, that they had to be rewarded by the psychopaths, right, who were making all this business because of Cool Britannia, right? So these cheeky bastards, since the 1960s, have been profiting off Cool Britannia, right? And that, to me, seems to be a problem, because we get nothing back. What did we ever get back, right? Think about the Beatles, the Stones, Led Zeppelin, the Clash, the Sex Pistols, Depeche Mode, da-di-da-di-da-di-da, da-di-da-di-da-di-da. 70 years of tax, impo, 70 years of tax, not just from the bands, but from the management, from the record labels, from the record pressing plants, from the concerts. The amount of tax they have made. What did we get back? What did the culture ever get back from them? And they used two very stupid things to keep us in a box. First is health and safety. Oh, right, health and safety. Once again, I've got to talk from a French point of view. In the last 40 years of rave, there have been as many casualties in pay parties as there have in free parties. There have been as many problems for society within both sides. So to suddenly make out free party as this dangerous place because they don't control it is a load of rubbish. And we know that. So that's a good place to start with our lawyers. By the way, hello, you're not credible because your game is as dangerous as our game. So can we just stop that? Stop talking about that because it's irrelevant, right? The other one's drugs. Oh, drugs are in free parties, are they? Oh, well, that's the only place in the world there's drugs. I mean, we've just seen the 3 top prime ministers of Europe come back from Ukraine with tissues on the table, which have funny lines. And they're talking to us about drugs. Oh, like drugs is only a free party problem and not a social problem, right? So, number one with the lawyers, shut the fuck up. That's not what we're talking about here. You don't have a leg to stand on, right? Because it's not that, and it's not that. So if it's not health and safety, and it's not drugs, what the fuck is it, right? Can we get the cards on the table after 40 years of harassment? And we're your cash cow. We're your fucking cash cow, right? We have paid you so much fucking tax, right? Enough is enough, right? And there's something in England called common land, right? It was given to the people so they could congregate, come together, and have a moment. Because we pay our taxes, we pay our rent, right? We're good citizens, we pay for our place. And the social contract is fucked, because we get nothing back, right? They've sold our water off, they sold everything off. We've been sold out by these fuckers. And they want to come to us and talk about free party, right? Enough is enough, right? We want our space because we earned it through our tax, right? We paid for it, right? And the point is that everyone goes to McDonald's, right? What are you scared of? What are you scared of giving people a space to come and do real music? Because the vast majority of people are going to go and listen to David Guetta anyway, right? So you shouldn't be worried. You can still make your cash. You can still have your money. And by giving us a space, you might get better music and make more money, right?
True that. So how are we going to shift people away from a consumer mindset and towards participation, generosity? And is that down to the promoter, the dance floor, or everyone?
Well, it's down to practice. The practice. I don't know if that translates to English. I'm a bit lost in France. La pratique in French means your daily working on something, yeah? And it's all there. It's all there. If you apply yourself to a creative something, you will meet the love supreme and it will teach you. I can guarantee you that. It's there. You just got to put the effort in. It's called self-discipline. And we can learn a lot from martial arts. Martial arts is the perfect example for free party. It's everybody realizing they can do it, but not in the sense of AI and the bullshit you see on social media, or I can be a DJ. No, it's you in front of you, not lying to yourself and doing the hard work of being a creative entity, right? And it can be anything you want, right? Choose your passion, follow your passion, be the thing, but do it seriously with respect. And if you do it with respect, it will come to you and it will teach you. That's for sure. And you will see through. And then the community will shine. And then we can sound clash each other and elevate.
Well, I'm looking forward to this future. Don't know about the rest of us here. So many artists at the moment, they're moving into sort of like clubs and festivals, and they're being accused of betraying the free party ethos. So how do we respond to that?
Does anyone in this room actually know what the free party ethos is?
Anyone? Any ideas?
It's weird, isn't it? I keep hearing this thing. The free party ethos. What the fuck is it? I've got no idea what it is, right? And we keep getting guilt-tripped because we're not it. I mean, for fuck's sake. I don't know what that thing is, right? But it's obviously a pain in the ass, and it sounds very dogmatic to me. And I don't know how you could be free if you're being dogmatic, right? It's a free party, so there shouldn't be an ethos as such. And to sell out from something when everyone's selling it out anyway? What? I mean, I was 10 years playing music for free in free parties. 10 years, I always went down and played, and I was always there giving, right? I mean, when I went to a club, it's because I had to pay the rent in the end, right? And no one was going to look after me. So did I sell out? Because people around me seemed to have a lot of money when I left the scene, right? There were people around me who were buying trucks and had houses and shit, and I was like, where'd that come from, right? I don't know, because I'm skint, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what this ethos is, and I don't know who the fuck thinks a musician sold out, because all we did was we didn't get looked after. No one thought about us. No one cared about us. So we had to go and look after ourselves, right? And as I said, I don't know one free party musician, artist, technician who's ever been rich. I mean, we get paid like peanuts when we play out, even in clubs and stuff, because we're from free party, right? We're not well represented. We don't have the big management. We don't have the big record deal. So we don't get paid well. And no one has ever sold out. Not on our side. It's an absolute insult to say that musicians have sold out in the free party. We never did. No one cared about us. No one ever looked after us, right? No one gave us a chance, right, to earn a living. And we just got the guilt trips, right? Non-stop guilt trip, right? So yeah, we fucked off. See you later.
And so the free party culture, how can it avoid getting stuck in its own dogma and keep experimenting instead of this like repetitive, vicious circle thing that keeps happening? How can we spiral it out again?
The practice.
Ooh,
the practice.
Okay.
The practice. It's all down to the practice. It's all about the practice. If you are sincerely going to, because let's go back to the 60s again, right? This whole thing that happened, you know, pop stars, pop starism. We need to redefine what an artist is in the 21st century, right? Because we're clinging onto a zombie culture of a time where the medium required pop stars. Today we don't need pop stars. We've got the technology. Everyone's got a studio, right? So what? You think music's just about getting rich and famous. Is that it? Well, you're selling yourself short. I mean, there's a lot of pop stars who don't seem very happy. Elon Musk looks like the saddest person in the world. So money can't be what's worth having, right? So why don't you use your craft and your music and your dance and your creativity for something else? Something more community-based, right? And so, yeah, I think it's like, let's get it in the practice and let the practice teach us. And then each one teach one, right? Through Soundclash, right? Because if everyone's doing a bit of this, a bit of that, and we come together in these common land spaces given by the lovely government that we paid for, right? Maybe, perhaps. But if not, we'll take it, we'll have it. But we need to redefine it. It has to be spaces with no money. And in my opinion, today, spaces with no drugs or alcohol. It should just be you in front of the music and the dance, right? Because you're not going to be able to build from that old root. It's growing into something unstoppable. Free party that we knew before has blossomed, and it will never change. We need to restart something different and learn from those mistakes. And the first thing is you have to make a choice. Either everybody makes money or nobody makes money. Not half-half. And if we choose the road of nobody makes money, well, then it's a communal space where people come together and we experiment creativity together. We elevate ourselves through understanding the music and the dance in a deepest way possible. And we push each other to go higher in that space. You know, that for me is probably the best answer. Or we just make it a space where everyone can do a bit of this, do a bit of that, and we all make money and survive however we do, right? And we love each other for it. Because we're all underground people trying to survive in Babylon. So, you know, that's the hip-hop ethos, isn't it? They all get to make money. Whoever they are, whatever they are, it's all about the cash, all about the money, you know, which is fine. It's honest. It's you know, dealing with the reality. Of course we'd love a world where we could all just be free of cash, right? But so long as we're in this nightmare, maybe we do need to understand the money factor. But one thing I do know is that the most dangerous thing for capitalism is sharing. It's not giving for free. Giving for free junks people up on you, or vice versa. Sharing is about mutual support system, right? And sharing is really dangerous for capitalism because it makes us a community again.
So there's a big picture we can't ignore that kind of overshadows us, and that is the music industry itself. So previously you said that the real divide isn't festivals versus technivals, but it's more independent versus corporate. Now, very on topic at the moment is what dangers do you see in the takeover of these independent platforms by these companies like Live Nation and Superstruct?
Well, quite simply, in a nutshell, the love supreme is getting transformed into a war machine. I mean, it's as simple as that. How fucked up is that? I mean, really think about it a second. The love supreme, the connection, the channeling process, the creative force that we can all partake in and share is being sucked into a ego pop starism nightmare of likes on social media to be a DJ, and then all your money gets sucked into a genocide in Palestine. We have got to stop this nightmare, and it has got to be coming not just from the artists, it's got to come from all of us. The reason why I say that is the Sonar Festival in Barcelona, it had, I forget the amount of artists, but there was a lot of artists pulled, right? So that's great, they boycotted, right? But they got replaced. And when you're an independent artist on our level, we ain't pop stars, we haven't got big money. And when you start rocking the boat like that, you're taking major, major problems with your career because you are living gig to gig, right? So you boycott, you have to. You can't see your music going that way. But you see, you just get replaced. So the power isn't with the artists. We don't have the power. The power's with the public. Because if the public didn't go, they'd be fucked, right? The reason why the machine works is because of the public go. So we as artists are ready to boycott. But we can only boycott if you boycott. Because if you don't boycott, there's no point, right? So the message to the public is, don't go to these events. Cut them out. Cut them out. And come to the independents. Support the independents. Don't support the sellouts. That's the message. And we need to create a new independence where people can survive. See? Not the free party. Because at the moment, for an independent artist, we are on one... It's like being on the Death Star, you know, in Star Wars, in the rubbish bit. And the walls are coming in, right? And we're going to get crushed if we don't get a solution, right? And there's no solution in free party for artists. We're screwed, right? We had to leave. We had to go to the commercial to survive, right? But we can't go in the commercial as it is because then our music gets taken to a war machine. So there's got to be a common ground here, right? We need to rethink the whole thing. We cannot carry on with the zombie artist idea of the 20th century of pop starism. We need to recreate the artist as the jazz musician or the person who is perpetually in practice and pushing the flow and dancing with the flow and connecting with the flow, and we are sharing this as a community. And we make sure through generosity that we can survive. Why do I pause and say generosity so slowly? Because the thing that's amazing about generosity is it's a spiritual practice. Why? Because I can be standing at the front of a party with a bucket, right? And I can be saying, give me a donation because we are a free party and we need help, yeah? And you look me in there and say, I haven't got any money. I'm going to go, what, fine, on you go. Go in. But you might have 200 euros in your pocket, right? And you just lied to me. Oh, did you just lie to your brother? Oh, shame on you. You see, I don't know, but you know. So can you live with yourself? Really? Can you live with the fact that you just looked a brother or a sister on the front of a free party? I haven't got any money. Go in. Ha-ha. I just screwed my brother and sister. Woohoo. You know, I'll go and buy some cocaine now. Hey. You know? And that happens all the time in the free parties I've been going to, you know. In fact, the one tribe I went to in the south of France, it took 9 hours to get in. And when we finally got in, right, I asked the drop-in caravan lot, well, why did it take so long? And they said, everybody was everyone was discussing the donation. Everyone was going, I haven't got money, I haven't got money. They were going, yes, you've got money. They were going, no, I haven't got money. What? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck have we become? You know, that you can come and look your brothers and sisters in the eye, and you know you're going to go and buy a bunch of shit in this free party, and you haven't even got 10 euros to help your fucking family? Oh, come on, this is sick, right? We're a sick culture, right? We need to wake the fuck up. Because, as it was told to me one time, there's a restaurant in Rajasthan in India that's been going for 2,000 years, right? And everyone eats at this restaurant, the super rich and the super poor, right? And the thing is, the super poor, they don't pay. But the super rich, they give a lot. And the ones in the middle give a little. And everyone has that little spiritual thing of, what's generosity? What's my generosity? How much have I got? What's going on? and everyone gives what they can, right? And because it's honest, and you're being honest with yourself, because you can't lie to yourself, right? So don't lie to yourself. Be true to yourself. And being true to yourself is realizing that your community needs your support. Now, if we go from free party to generosity party, which doesn't sound as sexy, does it? But it's a lot more efficacious. It's a lot more effective, right? A lot more effective to donate. And donate what you can properly. Because like that, we create a support system, a lifeboat, you know? And suddenly, then, it's down to transparency for the people who receive those donations. If you're getting donations from people, you need to be transparent. And also, you need to, the best you can, equally share that between everyone, right? That's how you redefine the artist. That's how you redefine the culture. You take it away from pop starism, and you put it into community again, which is where it came from in the first place, right? It was a bizarre thing that happened in the 20th century. As I said, it was necessary because the music needed to speak to us. It's a little bit like the Pied Piper of Hamelin in Germany, where the town's got lots of rats, and the piper comes along and says, I can get rid of the rats. And so he gets rid of the rats, and the parents go, well, fuck off then, thank you. And so the piper comes back and says, well, I'm going to take your children, and takes the children. That's what rock and roll was for me. Rock and roll was that. It was after years of colonization, of abuse, of capitalism from the Occidental people over the world, the adults would not listen. So what comes along? Rock and roll, right? But rock and roll is a slippery customer because you can take it as pleasure or you can take it as practice. And Europeans, well, mainly pleasure, isn't it? So we need to get into the practice.
Have you seen any models of this sort of successful generosity scope? Have you seen anything, heard of anything that could sort of start to influence?
Well, I mean, the one thing I have noticed is in meditation circles that this idea of generosity is pretty well understood. And the reason why it works better there than in free parties is because at the end of every meditation ceremony, the person will have a conversation with everyone and say, well, look, we've done this for as cheap as we can. There's a place we've had to hire, right? And there's food. So we've had to ask you to participate on that. But we haven't taken any money for us, right? So right now, if you want us to be able to carry on what we're doing, we need your support. And when you explain it like that to people in meditation circles, the generosity is phenomenal. I have been witness of the kind of cash people give when they understand, right? And the problem we have in free party culture is the vast majority of our music is no words. And they say in Jamaica that reggae is the telephone of the island. And if something needs to be talked about, an MC will put it on a record, another one will respond. So they say, you know. We don't have that in techno, unfortunately, because it's an instrumental music. And so we have this problem where things just kind of fester and go round and round until they become circles. And unfortunately, it's very hard to communicate to everyone because what do you do? Do you stop the sound system? Everyone's, hello, everybody. You know, oh, shut up. You know, it's not easy. It's not an easy one. We've got to work on how we do this. But I think this is the reason why we've done this EP, where we've got a track called "Give to the Sound System." The idea is to try and get the message across to the whole community. Wake the fuck up and realize that we need to support each other with generosity. And that means when you come to a free party, we shouldn't even ask you. You should just go straight up to the sound system and give 5, 10 euros, 20, whatever you got, whatever you can. Thank you, you know, because when you do that, you liberate the sound systems from any need to make money because it's a donation. It's not a path. It's not a paid entry. It's not a ticket price. We haven't asked for it. You just gave it, right? That's very, very powerful if we use it correctly. Because suddenly, it's not your fault people give you money. It's like, you know, like so the sound system got given like all this cash, you know. Wow. But then there's a responsibility that goes along with that. Because if the sound systems, when they get the money, just go and rock it up, well, that's not going to get us anywhere either, right? So there's a responsibility factor on all sides. There's a real need to decide, is free party our practice or is it just a plaything?
So all of those Spotify subscriptions you're all going to cancel.
Yep.
You know where you're going to put that money from now on, don't we? Yes. So we're going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to look at the cultural roots. We can't forget where this culture came from. Now, you've mentioned Jamaica, which often gets forgotten when we're talking about the dance music scene. But how important is it for today's scene to acknowledge its roots in Chicago and Detroit and Jamaica?
Wow, look at the state of us. I mean, quite honestly, look at the state of us. We whitewashed it again, didn't we? And by whitewashing our culture, we dumbed it down, didn't we? Oh my God, we cut ourselves off from the roots. Oh my God. Oh my God. What a disaster. Look at us, right? Man, we have been lobotomized in this part of the world. We need to wake up, remember? The first thing we said in this interview? Wake up to what we have been screwed by, right? My definition of a fascist is someone who thinks the person who's been screwing him all his life is suddenly going to turn around and help him, right? That's a definition of a fascist. You think these fucking psychopaths. I mean, in Britain, Farage, he's a public schoolboy. He's a public fucking schoolboy. He's from a rich family. Donald Trump's from a fucking rich family. And you think that guy's going to help you? Well, the only reason why you think that is because you're a fucking racist, right? So in Europe, we need to wake the fuck up. What luck we had when they brought us to rock and roll. Yeah? We were given a real fucking present. And the sound system culture that came from Jamaica, they gave us a present. And what have we fucking done with it, right? Shame on us. We need to wake the fuck up and turn it into a practice and stop it being a plaything. Because there's nothing to play about anymore. This world's going to fuck, right? We need to wake up. And so we need to reconnect to these people and say sorry. We need to say sorry to these people and invite them into our fucking community and say, we need to learn. That's why we need to get these guys back. Not easy when we haven't got any money, right? But maybe if we all start donating, we can bring them over.
Indeed, indeed. And, well, we've kind of said we haven't honored these roots enough, but how can we do that? Do you think, like, if we do manage to bring money, we can bring people over? Or how do you think the integration of
well,
the past and the future can come together?
I think the biggest, well, the word that obviously crops up whenever you talk about the subject is appropriation, right? Now, the way that we applied our version of dealing with this in Spiral Tribe was when we first heard acid house music, of course, it just blew our minds and changed everything, and we became ravers, right? But at the same time as acid house, there was house music, there was hip house. And me and Simon, when we were thinking, how can we respond, you see? Because it's either appropriation, and appropriation is just when you take something that comes from another culture and you don't do a hell of a lot to it, and you use your white privilege to make money and represent this thing that's not even yours, right? That's appropriation, as I understand it. But there's also response. Response is a completely different thing. And one of the best examples I know of responding is John Lennon with Chuck Berry in 1969 on The Ed Sullivan Show, which is the biggest show in America. John Lennon used his white privilege to grab Chuck Berry, whose career was going down, and say, no, look, this is Chuck Berry, you know? And I think one of the nicest things I've seen with regards to the call and response, which is the nice side, or the nice way of doing this, is B.B. King on stage in the 70s. And he stops the song and points over to the side, and he says, because of this guy, I'm on this stage today. Not because of the music, but because Eric Clapton was on the side, right? And he pointed to Eric Clapton and said, thank you to this guy, because he used his white privilege to get me here, right? Now, that's call and response. And so what we did in Spiral Tribe was we took the hip house groove, and we felt that was the right groove for us because it had the break beat and the disco beat together, right? That was the nice thing about hip house, because on one side you had the hip hop, the other side you had the house. But the hip house was trying to put it all together in the same place, right? And the Fast Eddies and the Cool Rock Steadies and the Tyree Coopers, these kind of people, had also put the acid in there as well, which was kind of a nice little touch. So anyway, we thought, well, if we're going to take any key rhythm or any clave of rave, we're going to take the hip house groove. But so we're not appropriating, we need to take the bass off, take the vocals off, take the keyboards off, and just go to the clave, the key rhythm, which is the funky drummer James Brown on top of the disco beat. And so we thought, right, well, they're going 120, 130, we'll go 160, right? And just to really change it, we'll put a delay on the kick. So we put a delay so it starts going ding, 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 right? Instead of dun, 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 right? So then we added a bit of King Tub, Ely Scratch Perry, Prince Jammy, dub attitude, and a bit of John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Jimi Hendrix improvisation, and we created the Spiral Tribe live set and the Network 23 tribal 160 BPM sped up hip house. And we figured by that point we'd really made an effort to try and make it different, and we could send that back and see what happens, right? And I think that's kind of like the interplay we're looking for is, first off, being very apologetic, to have lost the route, and then starting from that point and trying to see I'm speaking for these people. I can't speak for them, you know, and it's embarrassing to try and speak for them. So the answer to that question is a conversation again. It's to get our shit together so that we've got a platform that we could then reach out to them and say, well, hi, we're trying to do this. It's inspired by you. Can we dance? You know? And see if something could maybe work out.
It's about appreciation.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a little bit more philosophical for a moment. When we're looking at the number 23, what does it mean to you?
Well, for me, there's a lot of people have things about 23. I don't know what anyone else thinks, right? One of the people who brought the 23ism into the world, the Spiral Tribe, was Robert Anton Wilson. And he said, don't believe your own BS. Belief system bullshit, right? So what I'm going to say is just my personal point of view. And it's probably a load of bullshit. But as I said before, I am very, very convinced by my own personal experience in improvisation that John Coltrane has a point when he says the love supreme. But I also noticed that Bob Marley said the natural mystic was floating in the air, right? And I also remember that P-Funk said, free your mind and your ass will follow. The kingdom of heaven is within. Huh? And then Jimi Hendrix talked about the electric church, right? So, okay, that's interesting. Well, what are they talking about? So, for me, I had a very mad experience once on DMT. And I wound up in something that I can only describe as non-duality, because I wasn't there anymore. I was just this non-dual thing, you know. And I got the impression we're all it, right? It was consciousness in a form that had no up, down, no left, no right, no spatial time duality at all. It was just this non-dual us, right? Now, this is my bullshit. For there to be a one, it must have come from somewhere, right? And the only reference point I can find that makes any sense to me is Taoism. They talk about the Tao, you know, which is this nothingness that we all come from, the zero, right? So let's call that the zero, right? So from that zero, because there's nothing, there's a potential for something, right? So that's as close as I can get, right? Because one happened somehow, didn't it, right? I don't know where it comes from, but maybe because there's nothing, there's a potential for something, right? So that one arrives, right? And we've defined zero, we've defined one. But this incredible thing happened, right? One suddenly realized there was a potential for division. Because when you've got one, you can divide it, right? So by the potentiality of this one being possible to divide into the initial split, which the Chinese Taoists call yin-yang, and I'm sure it's got many other names, but they call it yin-yang. It's a polarity thing that suddenly sets up everything we are in duality, right? Because of that split, because of that polarity, that dynamic, it sets up the possibility for infinite division, right? And that's the reason why there's not one snowflake the same. There's not one face the same. There's not one chair made in a factory the same. Nothing is the same. It's all different. Because it's the division of this initial us, right? And it's us learning about us, you see? So the reason why 23 became important for me is because if you want to complete the series, you've got 0, you've got 1, but that initial split, you can't call it 1 and 2 because 1 has been defined, right? So you have to call that split 2 and 3. So for me, 23 is yin-yang. It's just another way of saying yin-yang.
I love that. And after decades of doing this, what still brings you back to source?
The practice.
Ooh, the practice. All right, so looking forward to the future, both musically and culturally. First of all, tell us about this new EP, Fuck the Fucking Fuckers, loving the name. And what message are you sending with this release?
Well, first off, the thing that's really nice about this release is it's 4 spirals. And we haven't done many things like this. In the history of Spiral Tribe music, before we did the sped-up hip house thing, we did a few EPs. One of them was Forward the Revolution. And it was EPs where we had an MC, and it was more breakbeaty. So, as I said previously, the free party scene, we'd seen a guy lose his hand, another guy disappear. We realized it was coming on top. We'd re-released Forward the Revolution. We gave all the money to help the sound systems, but it still wasn't getting through. And then I heard someone say that, techno musicians, they don't care. They never say anything. So I said, right, we don't say anything. So that was the challenge, right? And I was like, well, we're going to say something then, right? So I thought, well, what are we going to say? Well, the first thing we're going to say is give to the sound system. That's the first thing we're going to say. Give to your brothers and sisters. Stop just taking, give back. Because we badly need it. We're going to get screwed otherwise. I mean, the scene is falling apart, everybody. And if we don't come together and start helping each other, we're screwed, right? So that seemed to be a good message. First thing to say, give to the sound system. But then, I mean, this is 5 years ago, right? We started on this one. And then between now and then, the madness that has just seeped in everywhere is unbelievable. So we decided to try a couple other things. And around that time, Donald Trump sent the drone to kill the high-placed Iranian army guy. And we were like, oh, my God. This guy has just taken international law and thrown it in the bin, right? Okay? And the thing about technology is, at one point, it's only the rich people who have it, right? But with time, technology suddenly becomes accessible, and we all get access to it, right? So suddenly it came to us, well, if he's done that, the future's going to be a game of drones, right? So we made a track, Game of Drones. And then as that went on, I suddenly had this inspiration to do a track called You're Being Played. Because basically we're being played. It's as simple as that. Wake up, you know. These fascists who believe that these rich kids are going to fucking save them, wake the fuck up, you're being played, right? Make it clear, you're being played. And we were in the studio with MC Scallywag, and MC Scallywag started rapping and improvising, and he suddenly said, fuck Putin, fuck NATO, fuck the fucking lot, right? And I was like, that's gold, man, that's it. Fuck Putin, fuck NATO, fuck the fucking lot, right? Because they're playing us, right? So we made a track about that. And so we asked Mark from Spiral Tribe to do the EP, and at that time it was going to be called Give to the Sound System, right? And he sent back the artwork with the title, Fuck the Fucking Fuckers, right? And I went, that's genius. Because look at the last 5 years, right? Look at the last 5 years. All of these kind of like lefty type people are trying to be all reasonable with the fascists and having serious conversations and trying to talk reasonably. And these people are just laughing at them. And just like, you know, you say that, I'll say that. Oh, fake news. So when you've got people who are so incredibly, when you've got a brick wall in front of you, when you've got people who are not even going to talk normally, the only answer you have is fuck the fucking fuckers, right? So we thought we'd do an EP called that.
And we're all going to fucking get it, aren't we, people? Yes, damn right we are. I feel like this next question that I've got written down here is a little bit been answered. But so if we're looking at these points that we've brought across, this idea of generosity, this idea of appreciation, this idea of the practice, and this idea of community, what's your vision, taking into everything we've talked about, for the next stages of rave culture?
A collective choice. As I said, there's a few choices here. Do we stick with the zombie record industry mentality of the 20th century that was necessary then but is no longer necessary? That's a choice. And this is why we have to start pointing the finger at the public. Man, artists and the industry will only do what you do, right? What you do, what you tell us, will be done, right? Your wish is our command, right? If you're all going to go to sell-out raves and listen to David Guetta, man, that's your choice. It's not my choice, but it's your choice, right? So, really, wake up, everybody. Wake the fuck up and start telling people to get real. If you want a different scene, we have to create it by supporting it. Support the independents, fuck the sellouts, right? That is the beginning. And, you know, I'm sick and tired of people pointing at the sound systems and the musicians and asking us to do the shit. We can't do anything. We can do so much. We can kill our careers. We can pull back. We can get beaten by the police for putting a sound system in place. But the only thing that's really going to change is if the public boycott. That's it. It's boycott or it's war. It's as simple as that. The times we're living in today, your only peaceful solution is boycott. If we don't boycott, it's going to be violent. That's for sure. So before it's too late, get out there and boycott the sellouts. And when you see people trying to do something in your local area to build a community-type event, give them your support. And be generous, man. We've given you 40 years for free. Don't we deserve a bit of support? I mean, when do we get a bit of help, right? And the power is with the people, it's not with the artists. So that is really the start. That's the beginning bit. And if that doesn't happen, it's fucked. Give up, man. Waste the time, right? I'll just go and be a pop star. Not. But you see what I'm saying? It's like we're doing our best. I've boycotted Boiler Room. I've boycotted Spotify. I've done my bit to boycott. But it's doing nothing. If everyone pulls their subscriptions off Spotify, that will make a big noise, right? If everyone stops going to McDonald's, that will make a big noise. And you know what you got to do, right? And if humanity doesn't do it, well, then we've all got to face ourselves in the end, right? Maybe that's the way it is. Maybe that's what we're supposed to be. Maybe we're supposed to be a fuck-up zombie culture. Maybe it's the end of the empire and we're all just going to go down. And then each individual will have to face themselves at that moment, right? But there is a chance, there's an opportunity. We can do something differently, you know. We could boycott and support the independents. Man, wouldn't it be fantastic? And then we could start working on the practice together. Because in the community space we create, we can all start inspiring each other and connecting to the love supreme, right? Don't take it from me. Go and look yourself. Do something. Self-discipline yourself into a practice of music, dance, art, whatever you want. But then bring it to the community and share it. And sound clash, right? So, yeah, that's it. Building blocks. First off, public pull out from the commercial sellouts, support the underground, and then we build the space together. But I would suggest without alcohol and drugs. But that's to be debated. That's to be debated. It's a conversation.
And finally, just leading on from that last bit as well, practically, if you could give advice to anyone who might be watching, who's influenced or inspired, perhaps younger generations, people who are like 18, 19, getting their sound systems together, getting their parties together, who are going to be these next generations, what piece of advice would you give them to practically be able to be on this platform of moving forward?
I think the first thing is learn to be in a friendly competition, a loving competition.
Yeah.
about elevating yourselves. We've got all massive ego problems. I mean, we've been brought up in a narrative that's sick by psychopaths, right? So we're all a little bit sick, aren't we, right? So maybe try and get over the ego a bit and see that, like, martial arts is so much the best example, isn't it? You know, people eventually will challenge each other, but from a love point of view of learning, because the one golden rule of martial arts is you never attack, you only defend. See? You elevate yourself and make yourself ready for what life will throw at you. Okay? But always with love and always with a friendly helping each other go up. So yeah, have sound clashes, have battles, work it out. And if you lose a battle, don't get angry. Don't get all, you know, like that. Just see it as a challenge to get better next week, right? Go home, practice some more, get deeper. Elevate yourselves, you know? This is what music and dance is all about, is elevation. Bringing us higher to the love supreme, to the point that we all suddenly realize we can all see it, we can all be it, we can all channel it, we're all doing it together. And then the zombie understanding of music, of pop starism will just die because it will no longer be relevant. Music and dance will be a community shared experience, you know? And it will be the electric church, it will be the free your mind and your ass will follow, it will be the natural mystic, and it will certainly be the love supreme.
Well, I think right now everything has been reframed, and I know my mind is going wild with all these future possibilities. My questions are done, so we're going to hand it over to the floor. Hello, everybody. Has anybody got any questions, any burning questions that they would like to ask, please? I don't think the mic's stretched that far. Please stand up and project your voice.
It's just so for the recording, so we can hear. I'll repeat the question.
Every person I've spoken to from multiple generations of Rave, from DIY sounds to like the 18, 17-year-olds doing it now, they all speak about underground culture. And how can we cause like a mass change of outlook if we're calling it underground culture? At what point does community outreach make us commercial?
Well, I mean, it really does come down to this whole thing of realizing, okay, two words, similar but very different. First word, sorcery. Second word, magic. What's the difference? Why two words? I spent quite a long time trying to work that one out, right? And I've only got my point of view. Again, my BS. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but my version of what that is. Sorcery is you don't want anything. First thing in sorcery is I don't want anything. All you want to do is channel. You branch, it's like in, you know, Avatar. You tune in and you receive the wave. And then you flow with the wave and you realize, oh, I'm a bit like this, so I need the wave to get deeper. Because I can't follow that wave, I've just fallen off, right? So what did I learn from that wave? All right, I've got to get a bit more like this, or do a bit more practice here, a bit more practice there, right? That's going to make me, right, a better surfer. And because my starting point is I don't want anything, I just want to help. Whatever needs to be done, let's do it, right? And I know that this thing, this non-dual us, comes through when we open to it. So that, for me, is sorcery. And there's nothing special about sorcery. You just got to remember that you're a sorcerer. We're all sorcerers. It's just we forgot, right? So what's magic? Magic, for me, is persuasion, right? This piece of paper here is worth 20 quid. As long as we all believe it's worth 20 quid, it's 20 quid. But it's not 20 quid, it's a bit of paper. And we give it the power. So magic is smoke and mirrors, it's just persuasion. It's like the end of Alice in Wonderland. You're all a pack of cards. It's that powerful, but it's also that weak. So, as you say, to bring it to the sound system culture, the underground, what's the fucking underground? It's like I said, what's the ethos? We use these words so easily, don't we? Underground, and then we guilt trip each other. You're not underground. I'm underground. Well, what's underground?
I was about to say, on the flip side, what is the definition of commercial if we're looking at underground?
Well, for me, it's as simple as this. Do you want something or don't you? In a nutshell, it's that. As sound systems in the underground, do you care about each other? Is this a community you're building? If so, what kind of community? And the first question to ask is, what are we putting in the ritual? Because don't forget that a sound system event is a temporary autonomous zone, but it's also a ritual. You come together as a community after a hard week, you come together to enjoy each other, right? That's what sound system culture is about, community connection. So what do you put in the circle, right? Do you put crack cocaine? Do you put love? Do you put money? Do you put ecstasy? Do you put alcohol? Do you make it everyone dancing like this? Or do you push each other to elevate each other? They're the questions you've got to ask yourself. And then you should be able to answer yourself what underground is, you know. Underground is community, right? Number one. So if you've got a little thing you want more than everyone else, you're a sellout, okay? So that's where the commercial is. That's where the commercial is. Commercial is, I want to be a pop star, or I want loads of money, or I want fame, or I want this, or I want that. That's sellout. And of course, it's not black and white. There's a lot of in the middle, and you've got to be loving with each other and don't be too hard on each other. This is the problem we see in the left wing all the time. Everyone hates each other because we're not all perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. But the bottom line is it a community working out together their shit? That's underground. Or is it a bunch of people going, yeah, we're the best, look at us, we're the you know, that's sellout. You don't even have to be rich to sell out. You can sell out your friend for 10 euros if you want, you know. So that's the question these sound systems have got to ask themselves. What are they doing? What's the point, you know? Is it elevation of us, or is it we're the best sound system, you know? Does that answer the question? Would you like to go further?
I think just how I would round that off is it's like when you're looking at it in a non-commercial sense, it's for the gain of a community as a whole as opposed to an individual person or a business. And I think maybe that's kind of what would separate more the commercial to the idea of a community outreach. Because if you're using something like social media or words or spam, whatever you want to call it, if it's for the benefit of a whole community, then that's still underground. Whereas if it's for the benefit of, come to my party, yeah, you'll have a good time, but someone at the top is going to have a holiday in Barbados, then that then becomes commercial. Maybe that's where the line is.
For sure, but the slippery part of it is that if the community is truly trying to do something, then it's valid. But if the people are trying to give, and everyone else is doing business, well, then it's no longer valid. And that's the trouble with Free Party. That is where Free Party went wrong. And it's not it's just an error. It was just a mistake we all made from good intentions. So it's not like, oh, God, we've got to go and, I don't know, hit ourselves or something. It's just, look, we have got to get it clear that anything that's underground means everyone gets the same deal, right? We all get an equal playing field. And you know, that's really important. So, look, if money needs to be made, that's fine, no problem. But everyone gets to make money, right? And we make sure that the money is distributed in a way that everyone gets a bit, right? That's truly underground, would be a support system. Because, you know, everyone gets really into this thing underground because people kind of intuitively realize that it's a place where they can step outside of the nightmare, the narrative that we're given, and have a different thing. So we need to define what that different thing is. And if people bring Babylon into the new zone, well, then Free Party just goes down the toilet, right? Okay, that's a very good question. Does a sound system have the right just to do this on like having a fun sort of thing and not being, yeah. I am going to go back to France for this answer. There is a bit of an issue in France at the moment because there's the traveling community that brought the scene to France, and it's their life, right? These people, it's their life. And then in Paris, you've got these sound engineers who suddenly showed up in the scene. And they go and make their money working for Babylon, right? Because they're sound engineers. They go and work for fashion shows or big, commercial events, But because they've made their money and they're sound engineers, they come into the free party scene with massive sound systems and play really loud music in places where the neighbors are getting really mashed up by the size of the sound. And there's only 500 people there, and the sound system's for 50,000 people, And these people don't realize that, okay, you've got the right to do that if you want, but when you do that, it's got consequences on the other part of the scene who are trying to live from this. So that's a problem, isn't it? So yeah, you do have the right to make free party your plaything if you really want to. But realize that if you're going to do that, do it with respect, because for you it's just a plaything. For us, it's reality. And that is a very big difference. And if you can't respect the people who are living it, then maybe you shouldn't come, right? Maybe you should fuck off, right? And it's so similar of what happens with the whitewashing of the rave scene. We cut ourselves off from the roots in the same way they're cutting themselves off from the roots, see? So if you're going to get involved with something that's got roots, number one, respect the ancestors and respect the roots. That's the golden ticket. And then after that, of course, it's a free space, right? Do your thing, but do it with respect. Does that answer?
More questions on the floor? Yes. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that's a big one. Look, I'm a musician. I can only go so far with that because I don't fully understand the technology, right? But it's a very, very important question. I think humanity is coming up to the biggest sound clash ever. Humans against AI, right? And yeah, these new technologies are coming, but it's like Brian Eno said. Imagine social media with no profit motive, right? Imagine if they built social media with no profit motive. That's such a powerful statement. And I think it's the same with the technology. If there's going to be a profit motive around this, and I'm not talking about the big business here, I'm talking about the individuals who choose to dance with the medium. We're all responsible, every single one of us, and that's what I keep trying to get to. It's the public who've got the power, right? So every individual little musician who decides to dance with that technology, really have a good think about what you're trying to do here. Because the technology can make you go to the top of the mountain very quickly. And if you do a bit of this and a bit of that, you might get loads of likes, right? And any independent musician today knows that your career is based on likes. It's not about what you play. It's about how many likes you've got today, right? How fucked up is that? But it's the truth. If you're going to get booked by someone in another country and they're looking at your social media, you're going to need to have those likes to get the booking if they don't know who you are, right? So you can see why there's this little problem emerging, right? But never forget what it is to be a real musician, right? There's no point going to the top of the mountain if you didn't do the walking, because all that will happen is you'll get this quick fix, and you might get really liked and everyone will think you're great for about 2 minutes, right? But you won't get the soul of the music. You will give your soul to the machine. And that's just a choice. That's a choice we've all got to make. We're all going to be responsible in front of this, right? I am really going the other way, personally speaking. I refuse to take that easy route because I know that if I do that, I will not learn from the practice, okay? And the practice is everything because the practice is my understanding of reality, okay? And if I cheat on reality, I can't hide from myself, okay? So, okay, if you want to do it, go for it. Be careful.
Some more questions? Yes?
First of all, it's absolutely pleasure to be able to talk to both of you and pick your brains. My question was similar to kind of the end of the political sort of standpoint. One thing I've kind of seen as the future progresses is where I come from, Italy, free party has always been, and rave has always been very inherently political. I've noticed with the youth scene of today, with the continuous closure of legal venues, economical issues, a lot of the young youth culture is kind of moving towards the unlicensed music scene. Also with the promotion of social media, it's kind of becoming something new and trendy, a little bit different, and kind of following that. We've talked and discussed about the fact that yes, you can do rave and free party in a non-political way as long as you accept the consequences of what you're bringing in and who you're involving. Is there a way that we can try and inspire the youth of today to kind of respect the roots and think about the political decisions that you are making, and when you approach the standpoint and you approach a free party, the political position you're putting yourself in, not only against the law, but against many other philosophies? How can we kind of re-push this youth culture to accepting it and the roots of what it is, and rather as just an event and just a fun and a play thing to say you did on the weekend and post on your stories?
I think on a practical level, the question being, how do we get the it's a very good question, because every generation that comes into a scene, it gets dumbed down a bit more and a bit more until we've just completely lost the thread. And it's not their fault, it's just, how we send the information. And as I said before, we're in a scene with no talking. So things kind of become the popular vote. I never forget in 1994 when ketamine suddenly arrived. And I was like, fuck that, man, it's not doing it for me. But the popular vote, 90% people chose ketamine, and that's the way it was. You can't do anything about it. And so if you didn't like that, you had to fuck off, right? So it is this thing of how do we have a talking space within these spaces? Because there's never been one. That's another big mistake we made, right? When we planted the seed, there was no, hey, here's a bit where we've done the party and everyone can hang around at the end and we'll pass the mic and each one can teach one and we can learn from each other and have a chat. That's a real challenge, but it's one we have to face. In our scenes, is there a way, once we've had a party, or at least for a moment in the party, we go down to ambient and we come down from the whole thing, and then we get in a circle, and then everyone can talk, but no one can answer, Everyone gets to say what they're feeling and how they're feeling it, and we each one teach one from that space. Could be a really good way to also bring in the younger people, and they can listen to the big brothers and the big sisters, right? Who've got maybe things to say, and then they can say their thing back, and then we can, oh, right, okay. And then maybe put ambient on and come back up to dance floor and off we go again. I don't know. I've been trying to think for ages, how do we do this? I did it in one tribe where after my set I got on the mic and said a few things. But that wasn't it was a little bit effective, but it wasn't the answer because it's too preachy, It's got to be a collective conversation. Any change that's worth it can't come from one person. It's got to come from all of us, right? And the only way it can come from all of us is by listening to each other, right? And then everyone goes away, has a think, comes back the next week, has a dance, and then, how's it feeling this week, everybody? How is it, right? And that could be a good way to try and get that thing going. And it's also a great place to have the conversation about the need to give, Because it's a real consummation scene, isn't it? Everyone's underground consuming, right? How many people are actually giving in a free party? Really? I mean, really giving. How many? DJ's always giving, right? Always. Sound systems give and take a little bit. Technicians give, artists give, there's a whole bunch of people who will give, Dancers who are really trying to elevate the dance floor, they're giving, But there's a whole zombie side of free party that's just about consuming. And look, it's a free space, so welcome, but don't dominate. And the only way we can get that going is by talking to each other and having these powwows where we talk and share. So maybe that's one of the ways of going about it. The other thing is, I think, I keep coming back to the idea of unionizing, really, really unionize. Get the sound systems to come together and have moments in the week when they're not doing parties where they actually come and hang out and talk to each other and then look at what's happening, what the problems are, what's going on, and work out together how you can collectively communicate in these moments of sharing the need. Okay, everyone, we need a lawyer badly, right? For example, we're getting screwed here, and the government is killing us, right? We need money, and we're like 10,000 people here. If everyone can give 10 euros, we've got 100,000 euros, let's go, you know? Wow, that would start changing things, wouldn't it, you know? As long as the people who are receiving the money are not sellouts. But I wouldn't want to be a sellout if people gave me donations like that. I don't think it would end very well for you. So, you know, I think there is some hope in that. But I think that's one of the things that's been standing out for me is this need to have a talking space within an instrumental music scene. I think let's start with community first. You know? It's so far out of control, man. It's like we're all getting sucked into this world problem. Every day you look on your feed, you're seeing genocide and war, and oh my God, what can we do? What can we do? You know, right? Ooh, yeah. Keep the eye on that. Don't lose sight of that. But let's like bring it down to a human level. This is why I believe in the practice. See, my practice, to give an example, is each day I will do 1 hour mix on my live set. I'll improvise, maybe 2 hours if I'm in the mood. And then I'll take that downstairs and I'll put it on the speakers and I'll do 2 hours of dancing to it. So I channel the music and then I receive what I've channeled as a practice, okay? Now that in something is a very powerful way for you to start taking control over your reality. And you can't be frightened of that. It's okay. It's all right to defend yourself, okay? As long as you're not doing harm to anyone, you have the right to defend yourself. And the thing I've noticed from doing that is when you give to the Love Supreme, it gives back. If I do 2 hours of exercise every day, I get an instant result, okay? And then I can take my instant result to the community. And then in a small community space, we can share our instant results and lock down our area and make it a nice community space where we look after each other. And then we can go, oh, is anyone else out there? And then maybe from that platform, we can start federating, you know? That could be possible. I think it's difficult because there's a whole, I feel such a need to try and help the free party scene, but I realize how screwed up it is and how far it's gone. Maybe it's just not possible to help it. Maybe we need to start from scratch again on a new base. Maybe that's it. I don't know. It's a conversation, as I keep saying. I don't want to be preachy. It's a conversation. We need to talk about this. And if we get this conversation going between us, hopefully each one can teach one and we'll work it out. But I think it starts off with a day-to-day practice. Be real with yourself. Find your passion, develop your passion, bring it to the community in a small space, develop that community, and then we'll see where we can go after that. I just don't think you can do the sudden change the world instantly. I don't think that works. It's got to be a walking step-by-step process. But to start that, you have to start with yourself.
Just on a comment from my side on the idea of the online community space. So Dance Culture is a online community group that I started in 2017 exactly for these kinds of conversations. Also to inspire people to get out of their box. Like lots of people I know who like techno were like, psytrance? You must be deaf. And it's like, well, no, actually, it's really good music over that side. But for some reason, there's some box that you won't cross. So it's really trying to influence people to be more free and more open. But, I mean, especially then, back in sort of 2017, the only way to really do this was with social media. But the problem with social media is even if you've got the passion and you're dedicating the time and the space, they still shadow ban you. I'm shadow banned like crazy. I'm wondering how far this live stream is actually going to get. And I've had even police come to my house back in 2015 because of the way I was sharing just about music on social media. So there's so much sort of like behind the scenes limitation and shadow banning and like too big, too quick. Like, you know, the authorities are on the idea that we together as dance floor goers, if you put all dance floor goers all across the world together, that's a damn lot of people with a damn lot of power. Mm-hmm. And I think they're very aware of that, which is why they, you know, like segregate parties and why, for example, you know, it's very difficult, especially for a younger generation, to go up to Manchester for a party, because guess what? It's going to cost you 70 quid on the bus or on the train, and you can't afford that. Plus you've got to stay, plus this, plus that. So they've really like separated our scenes in so many ways. The only way we really get together is at festivals. So, but yeah, moving that online, we need to move away from the social medias. We need to be more independent. We need to be more niche. But then that comes with money because you need coders, you need this, then it's down to your data, it's down to this. It's a really wild world, the internet, when it comes to these sorts of things. And even in lockdown, I was lucky enough to be sponsored by someone who basically installed the internet into Canary Wharf and like gave me as much data as I wanted to do free parties online for the world. And we would hit over 2,000 people in 65 countries watching this fully live stream, never recorded, 5 different channels, all different music, discovery. But we were getting not only shut down by sort of like blacklisting government, like this is a danger website, which it's not, but also we were getting cyber attacks. We got like effectively cyber warfare put on our website, which blew up computer servers in Sweden because they put so much traffic to my website, which is just giving out free music in the lockdown, good vibes, peace out, no agenda, no profit, no nothing. And I'm getting random people on the other side of the world thinking, oh, if I pretend to be them, I can make millions. It's a wild, wild west when it comes to the internet and communication, which is a real shame because that was meant to be our golden ticket of huge, you know, change and revolution and these kind of things. Just a comment, doesn't need to go any further, but I just wanted to add that little spice of it in. It's not that easy. I've tried. I really have.
This is a very good point because I'm a live set musician. I use electronic machines and computers to make music, right? So, you know, there's a difference. See, when I interact with the machine has got lots of little loops. And those little loops will not do anything unless I interact with it. So I've set up a library. I've set up in the machine a kind of electronic piano, if you like, or an electronic orchestra, something like that. But the channeling process of the Love Supreme is still intact. In the technology that's coming through today, especially with artificial intelligence, for the first time, music will not come from the Love Supreme. It will come from a machine that is analyzing other people's versions of the Love Supreme and then remixing that into its own soup, right? And it will give loads of opportunities to people who want to be pop stars or be famous or get loads of likes to just go and make soup music, which is not coming from any Love Supreme apart from you made a choice on, I want an R&B beat. But you didn't build the R&B beat. It just, you got presented a bunch of R&B beats. Oh, I'll have that one, right? And suddenly that makes you a musician, right? It does in a certain way. But you're dumbing yourself down. You're selling yourself short. God, man, don't you want to learn an instrument? I mean, what happened to human beings playing instruments, you know? Let's just get back to that. And so, yeah, the technology that's coming in is a dangerous thing because it's going to cut us off from the Love Supreme, from the non-dual us. And for the first time, humanity is going to get sucked into that. And you can already see, as you've pointed out, it's a war zone out there. Man, it's dirty. The people who are running that, man, turn your back on it, boycott it, get the fuck out of there, make your own sound systems, make your own music, and do your own dance. You don't need the pop stars.
Any more questions on the floor? Yes.
Well, it's all over hip-hop and reggae, isn't it? I mean, they've done it all. There's nothing new to do. I mean, Public Enemy, you know, Lee Scratch Perry, all these people did it, you know. And sound system culture comes from that. These people know it, they've been it, they are it, right from the word go. You know, it's that challenging and pushing it higher through the craft of being a proper, real musician, artist, dancer. Does that answer the question?
Less about the progression of the music, more about the progression of the engagement with the scene and the give and take of moving it forward.
Well, that's why I keep coming back to the people. Man, we can only go so far. Musicians can propose things, artists can propose things, we can do independent parties, but you know what? I've played at quite a number of independent free, independent pay parties, but someone puts a free party across the road and no one comes to the independent pay party. They all go to the free party, and that kills the independent party. And people lose loads of money, and it puts people out of business, right? And it kills artists, right? So, yeah, it's there. I mean, what do you want? Do you want to carry on with free party where we all just consume shit and we just get mediocre DJs who are just, it's a great space for people to learn, of course. No problem with people coming and learning and building from nothing. That's fine. But what happened to the John Coltrane's and the Jimi Hendrix and the Bob Marleys, right? They need to earn a living from what they do, otherwise they can't focus. And you only can focus to the degree of getting that level by doing it all the time. So you can't get a job on the side. You have to focus. But that needs to be based on the people supporting them. So that's the key to that question, is do the people want to support real art and music and and do the musicians want to then come back to the people and say, thank you, I don't want to be a pop star, let's make this different this time. Let's make it community-based. So you boycott and I'll boycott, and then we'll come together and try and do it differently, right? That's the ticket for me. But if we boycott and try and do these independent events where it's cheap to get in, but we get some money so we can survive, and you go to a free party and consume, well, you've killed us. And if we do these independent spaces and you go and listen to, some sellout fucking massive mega rave, well, you've killed us. And so we're dead, right? So now you've only got a choice between free, illegal, with like loads of consummation, or massively commercial with loads of consummation. Either way, it's consummation. It's just consummation. Because why? Because the public consume. You're a consumer. Whether you're in a free party or a pay party, you're still a fucking consumer. And the only way we can change that is by supporting the artists and the independents. And then those artists and independents have got to stop pretending that they want to go up and become pop stars or something like that. Let's be master drummers and master dancers again. Let's be sauciers, Let's do that together. And let's have a generous sharing cash flow going through it, that everyone gets enough to survive. Minimum wage all round. That'd be good, wouldn't it? But for that to happen, people support. No people support, that does not happen. So we don't have the power to make that. We can propose it, but the people have the power to make it. So that's the answer there.
Any more questions on the floor?
Are we okay for time?
I think we're okay for time. But are there any more questions?
We have 15 minutes
We've
if we
got
want.
15 minutes.
One more from the live stream.
Uh-huh.
This one. NFTs and DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations.
Do you want to maybe...
Do you want to read it?
Yeah. Because it sounds very interesting. This long one.
Sounds over my head.
Okay. So NFTs and DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. So we're talking third wave of the internet, I believe, on this subject. Have been huge sources of fundraising and community building over the last 5 years and have even freed people from prison. So how does this play a part, or I guess how could this play a part in the future of Rave?
Well, I mean, I'm really, I'm so up my own ass, I don't know much about what that is. But I do know that if I understand the gist, it's collective online donating that has created finance to help people from getting out of prison or helping support communities. Is that the...
I mean, I've done some research into the ideas of this Web3 because that's the next step from where we were with trying to do dance culture on social media didn't work. So I've looked into this kind of thing. And it's like the NFT. Say dance culture had an NFT, which was some, vinyl record art thing that you can buy digitally. And then that funding is going towards, supporting new artists, things like that. I think it's kind of that side of line. So these things can create fundraising. And I guess that could create a really nice niche, I guess, as well as worldwide, because you've got the access. There's definitely some countries which have got a hell of a lot of money, and they probably like dance music too. So it's accessing that. He's also just written a Saze, I can't read that word. Sorry, a Sanjay Dao is a good example. I think, Ben, we're not educated enough to be able to truly answer this question, unfortunately.
It seems to me that the kind of thing here that resonates with me is the idea that we need to readdress how we deal with money within the community. Because there are ways we can generate money. And then what do we do with that money is the big question here. And if these are ways of making collective donations towards different organizations, well then, to me, it's fantastic. But then what do we do with the money is also a massive responsibility as individuals. Do we use it to help everybody in the community? Do we help an artist who really needs to be helped because he's upcoming and has proven himself through the sound clash that this guy's got it or this girl's got it, you know? And so some of that funding can go and help those kind of people. That's a really interesting thing because don't forget, money is magic, right? It's a magic. It's a persuasion tool that we've been had imposed on us. So how we deal with that is the real revolution. Because I don't believe, like a good example is in Barcelona in the 1930s, the anarchists and the communists were fighting Franco. And they'd had a kind of revolution in Barcelona where they'd redistributed everything to the people. And it was a really special thing, apart from with time they ran out of stuff, right? And no bank was ever going to lend the anarchists any money and the communists. No way. Capitalism and all the isms just ganged up on these people and said, no way. So they started to getting poorer and poorer, less and less money. And so what happened was the communists went to Stalin and said, hi, Stalin, we kind of need a bit of help over here. And Stalin said, well, we're going to help you, but you have to get rid of the anarchists, right? And so they wiped out the anarchists because the anarchists had no money, right? So you see, in the power play of magic, how we deal with money is so important. That's why I don't believe in free anymore. I believe in sharing, right? Sharing is the most dangerous thing in capitalism, sharing. So if we're going to get involved with this kind of stuff, and I'm sorry if I've got it wrong, but from what I understand, if we're going to generate money, how we deal with that energy in the community space is vitally important, right? And it's a very contentious thing, so we have to be careful how we deal with each other and understanding. A lot of understanding, because money is a dirty thing, right? And it corrupts, and it does get in the way of so much. So if we're going to do things like this, just very careful how we distribute it, and always trying to be as transparent as you can, you know, as on the table as you can.
Just now I have the live stream in front of me. There's a few comments coming up about, you know, we don't have money right now. We're in a very, all of us, most of us are in this situation, like, living paycheck to paycheck. I've got 20 quid in my account. Who else? You know what I mean? Like, according to my future things that they were telling me at school, I should have a house by now. Yeah, right. But it's true. Money is kind of scarce for us right now. But it's not just about money, is it? Money is a form of energy, and it's about exchange. So just to kind of bring together that, it's like, if you don't have money, you've probably got some kind of skill. And if that skill is, you know, just maybe you are really good with people and you can work on a door, or maybe you've got a skill set where actually you're a bit techie and that's your main job and you can help out. It's that sharing ethos again. It's that energy exchange, which doesn't have to be money. It can be literal talent, skill, and energy as well.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think one of the things that seems to be very clear to me at the moment is the situation is so drastic at the moment for independent illegal parties. It's really, really hard, right? And they hit us with two weapons. One is the law and the other one is violence, right? It's either the riot police or it's the law, right? Now, it would seem to me if we've got any cash flow situations going down at the moment in these kind of independent spaces, unionize, come together, because if 100,000 people gave 10 euros, you'd have $1 million fucking quid, right? No, €1 million. But you see what I'm trying to get to? We need lawyers at the moment. We need, because we, the people, when we talk, they've got another game going, right? It's called the law. And you know if you go to court, you need a lawyer, right? Because they won't listen to you, right? That's how they play it. They have a game called the law. So if we are going to fight back and survive and defend ourselves, we need lawyers, right? They cost a lot of money, but coming together, unionizing, and then hiring lawyers that defend us all year because we are a union, and then get the social media experts in to shame the government. Because don't forget what I said before. We've paid serious tax. You know, the record industry of Britain has paid serious tax, okay? We deserve our common land, we deserve our spaces, right? But to get them, we need to unionize, I think. It's just, I'm throwing it out there, right? But the point being that we are all broke. But if we're 100,000 people collectively giving even £5, it's quite a lot of money we can get together, you know. But then we need the sound systems to come together, we need the people to come together and talk about strategy, what we want to say, how we fight back, you know. And that's a conversation, that's a big thing to work on. But yeah.
Well, we've definitely got some sparks of ignition I mean, I'm burning to go. I don't know about the rest of everybody participating. Any final questions before it gets too dark and the party starts, people? Last chances on the floor. We're good. Last chances online. No, I think. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, and thank everyone for listening. Let's have a fucking party.